Everyone. So, this week we are on part three. We are still doing the breakdown of lesson one, week one, from Job 37, verses 22 and 23. And right now we're on verse 23, so I'm going to read that again in my Bible that I have next to me. So, verse 23, Job 37, and this is King James Version. Touching the Almighty, we cannot find him out. He is excellent in power and in judgment, and in plenty of justice he will not afflict. And again, that's Job 37, verse 23. So I'm going to be looking at my notes again, and we're just going to go over it together. Last week we talked about, right, touching the Almighty, talking about God's, greatness, the word Shaddai, right? And then we cannot find him out, that word find, which is actually find out. How we'll never be able to fully know all there is to know about God is a lifelong journey. Okay, so today we're gonna again do as much as we can, but we're almost done doing this breakdown. So today's word we're gonna start off with the word excellent, which is sagi. Okay, it is Sagi. So Sagi, in particular, when it's talking about God, means great. Okay, so just remember that. This word excellent is Sagi, and in reference to God, it means great. So again, focusing on his greatness. In power, power is koach, and it is spelled Koah. Okay, so koach. And this word means strength or power. This is late Hebrew. One particular definition for this word that stood out to me is that it is the power of God in combination: creation, acts of deliverance, and judgment. Right? Creation, acts of deliverance, and judgment. That particular word was interesting to me because, again, we see in verse 23, right? He is excellent in power and in judgment and in plenty of justice, right? We recognize him as Elohim, the creator, um, from the singular word, right? Eloah, which is a singular form of Elohim. So we're seeing all that in here, okay? And in judgment. So judgment is mispat. I'm probably not saying that right, but it is M-I-S-P-A-T, mispat. And again, in this context, it's an attribute. It means justice, right, rectitude, particularly of God. Okay. So, little side note that I have in my notes: we serve a just and fair God. He doesn't waver or cater to certain groups for his own interest. He judges righteously. We can't bribe him, and he cannot be persuaded with cutesy pleasantries or flattering compliments. So, in other words, we can't suck up to God, right? And there's nothing we can do or say to, kind of get him on our side, or, persuade him to favor us. That's not how he operates, right? So, God is excellent in power, right? He's great in strength and power, um, but also he's great in judgment as well. So he judges righteously, okay? And in plenty. So this word plenty is the word robe, but it is spelled like rob. So R-O-B, robe. And it means multitude, abundance, greatness. So it's not just a little bit, right, of justice, right, and plenty and justice. It's a lot. It is an abundance. It is an enormous amount. Can't count it, right? And then, of course, the word justice. Okay, this word is Sedaka. Sedaka. It is spelled Sedaqa. Sedaqa. And it, in this context, means God's attribute as sovereign in administering justice. Okay, so just a little side note, because God is sovereign, he is abundantly just, and he administers it in a sovereign and righteous way. We don't have to worry about not getting justice when the King of Kings is on the job. Okay. So again, sometimes it feels like um, it's not fair, right? Like, well, where's my justice? Where's my justice? And I think I mentioned in the general Bible study how, listening to a podcast, right? We should be careful um, when we open our mouths to say, well, I want justice, because justice is getting what you deserve. Mercy is when you did not get what you deserve, right? So again, be careful on those things, but also be mindful of the fact that even if it doesn't feel fair to me, even if I feel like I've been wronged, he's still El Roi, right? The God who sees. He sees these things. He is just and he is fair, and he will, address those things in his own time, right? He will make things right. So I have the confidence and trust to know, one, that my God cannot be bribed. I don't have to worry about him, just kind of changing his mind at a whim. He does not change, and he is adamant about that because he stands for these things. Okay. And believe it or not, we are finishing up this verse. So with a little bit of time I got left. Last part, he will not afflict. So this word afflict is ana, okay, and it is spelled like Anna, A-N-A, ana, and it means to humble or weaken. Um, in the New King James, right, it's also translated as afflict, or I'm sorry, in the New King James, it's translated as oppress. Okay, so this is my side note. The kind of justice that weakens people is not true justice at all. We see laws being passed that target people as in times past, right? So in the Bible, when the law went out declaring that all Jews should be killed, right? We see that all the way up, to the Jim Crow era. And even, like I said, now in current times, we see these things happening that feels like it is not being just, right? Or certain things are being passed that are oppressive um, to certain groups of people, right? But when God does something, it is to everyone's benefit. We are not oppressed or weakened by what God does in our lives because his word gives us life. So that is all of them. Um, but just to uh, elaborate on that, I was trying to find the word to elaborate on that. Um, yeah, right. We it's a blessing that we serve a God who cares about the marginalized and the oppressed. Um, and while it might feel oppressive sometimes, right, his law and some of the things that he puts in place for us, right, those boundaries for us, is really to protect us. It feels oppressive to your flesh because they're at war. God and your flesh are at war. They hate each other. Okay. I think scripture says, the flesh and the spirit are at enmity, right? The flesh is enmity against God. So mutual hatred. So there might be times where it's like, I don't know, but I can always trust and know that everything he does is for my good. He's not going to do this to manipulate the situation or anything of that sort. And even during times where it may feel like my rights are being oppressed or, infringed or whatever, again, I still have that confidence to know that I serve the one true God who makes everything right, who stands for what is right, even when it feels like the world is not. Okay, so again, I went over a little bit, but um, I thank you for listening today. I hope that you got something out of today's lesson. And remember that you serve an excellent, awesome God who is just and fair, and He does see and He does care about you. Even when the world tells you or makes you feel like you don't matter, always matter to God, and He always cares about His children. So take care and God bless. Bye.